Well, hi guys and gals, it's me George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, and we're down here in the Goofy shop again. And before we get started working on the Goofy cart, I wanted to show you a couple of the issues that we're going to be dealing with. Now the first one, if you had watched the last video when we ran it the last time, you might have noticed that this rear wheel was wobbling towards the end just before it threw the chain off. Did it break or jump? Well, let me show you why. Watch this. Are you watching it? And watch in here as well. Okay, that's one issue. The issue is that the axle itself got bent. Now that noise you hear, that is our chain tensioner that goes down underneath here, that is riding right up against the sprocket, and that was part of the problem we had with it throwing the chain, was because the arm is actually too long and it was pushing the chain too close to the sprocket. So we're going to have to make a modification there. So that's two issues right there. Let me take you around the side and show you another issue. Now, here's another issue. Now, the rear wheels are hanging so that the suspension is not under pressure at the moment. But if you look right in here, and let me zoom down in there for you. Yeah. Can you see right in there? That's where this sprocket has been rubbing on our torsion bar, or not torsion bar, radius rod. And part of that is because of the way I modified the carrier for this sprocket and the one that's inside the frame in there, using double carrier bearings, pillow blocks, and because of the way it was done, I had to keep this mount for this sprocket on the outside, which pushed it out further away from the frame than it was originally. Originally this sprocket was back in probably more in line with where that nut is now, and so clearance for this was never a problem. Well, it is now, and to alleviate that problem, I did something else that created problems. I'm going to lower you down. Hold on to your hats now. What I did was I added this spacer in here. Normally this would be pushed right against my tie rod holder, which was just a nut welded on and drilled with a taper drill to give it the right taper for the tie rod end to connect to. Well, by pushing this out, it also made this loosen up and it wouldn't stay tight, and so that was giving us trouble. So I'm going to need to eliminate this washer and pull this back in, and to do that I'm going to have to make a concession back here or make a modification to this. Either I'm going to have to cut this and bend it out around, or I'm going to have to notch this, and it would have to be a pretty deep notch, we can do it, but at any rate, this whole radius rod is going to have to come off. Now, that causes another issue. Well, it can be done, but what you've got to realize, let me back you up again here, whoops, back you up, is that this radius rod is welded on to this bracket here, which is the carrier bracket for the rear axle bearing housings. It's also the mounting plate for the shocks, and it has this piece that comes up here which ties all of our rear end support together. So we're going to have to totally disassemble this rear end to get everything apart and remodify it. Bring you back. And that would deal with the rear end. I think we're going to keep our double bearing set up in here. I don't think that was any problem. That may have allowed for the axle to bend, but I'm not so sure about that. I'm not convinced of that. But with this set up here, making this a one-wheel peel deal, the brakes still work very well, and it slows down the Goofy Cart very well with this one large disc and brake caliper there. That's the only brakes we have on the Goofy Cart. You gotta remember, the Goofy Cart's pretty light. The brakes worked well. And I want to keep that because with a live axle, with this being a one-piece axle across there, it wanted to scuff too much, especially at lower speeds and trying to go around corners. So with this way, we don't have the scuffing problem. So we're going to have to do some modifications. Now the other thing is, I would like to replace this motor and put a V-twin, but it would have to be horizontal shaft. I don't have enough room in the frame to put in a vertical shaft, which in some senses would help me because I could eliminate my 90-degree gearbox that we have right here. Those of you who have followed along with this build know how this works. We have the centrifugal clutch back up in there, and the chain comes down here to this 90-degree gearbox, which then transfers down underneath. And then let me take you down underneath so you can see what's going on under there. Transfers down underneath to this sprocket that you see here. Originally, I had a pulley on here and a pulley over there on the transmission. Now we have sprockets, so we have no more slippage. This has gotten really loose, which means I'll need to adjust this adjuster and tighten that up because the chain has stretched out. If I had a vertical shaft engine, I could eliminate that, and the sprocket would come off the bottom of the engine and go directly to the transmission sprocket over there. So that would be helpful, but we don't have enough room for a vertical shaft V-twin motor. It would, if I could get the back of the motor back in here, the front of the motor would be up in here, and there just isn't enough room. So I would have to extend the frame, and that's not an impossibility, but that's a major issue. Another thing we have to do is, our grill came out when it was going at the airport, so we've got to reattach that. So we have a few issues. This engine still runs okay. I wasn't happy the way it was running. It seemed to be well, it needed some more tuning, I guess is what I should say. And I think part of the issue is that I have been depending solely on gravity feed for my fuel. And you can see the fuel line comes off the carburetor here. And at this point, if you follow that back here, the feed out of the bottom of my fuel tank would be down in here. Just like it is there. See that? This is not the fuel tank. Normally the fuel tank sits up here. And it worked, but it seemed to starve for gas occasionally. And we saw that more at the airport than we did running around here. Another issue we have is this tire here. The tube in it has gone flat, and these tires all have tubes in them, and so we're going to have to change the tube or change it or repair the tube in this one, which isn't a big deal, except it takes at least 2 people and maybe 3 to change it, because this is a pretty narrow rim and the tread width on the tire is wider than the rim, and these tires are pretty stiff, so that even with this running flat, it doesn't compress all the way down, which was good for us because we actually ran it the whole time at the airport. It was running on a flat tire over here. So we need to take care of that too. And all this has for an axle, let me take my cap off here. These caps are on there pretty well. The only thing that holds them on is a friction fit and silicone. And it does a really good job. And these are, well, the 2 caps on either side originally were together like that. I'm not into drinking anymore, but I'm told that these were used for mixing drinks at a bar. One size is a little bit bigger than the other. That's all I know about it. So anyway, it was 50 cents for chrome at the Salvation Army out in Minnesota when I bought them. You gotta have chrome, you know. Looks a whole lot better with that cap on there than without it, don't it? So we're gonna be taking the wheel off, and as you can see, it's only a 3/4 inch shaft, and I have an Allen set screw here. And I don't know if there's one, no, there's only one on there, and then another one on the inside right in there. And this wheel was a farm implement wheel of some kind. We don't know for sure exactly what, but it had roller bearings in it originally, and a friend of mine who has since departed made sleeves to go inside here and machined them for me, and then I welded these Allen set screw hubs on here that also have keys on them. The keys are only as wide as these hubs on each side, so we'll have to take them off and do the wheel and tire sit up. So those are the major issues that we have at the moment. I've got to put my battery charger on the battery. It's not dead. You can see the light comes on, but there's not enough power there to start it or even to blow the horn for that matter. I don't even know if there's enough to turn the headlights on, is there? Yeah, barely, dimly, but we need to charge the battery up. So that's where we're at. One more thing I would like to say before I finish off this overview of what's about to happen. I seriously am considering eliminating the transmission. Most of the young people that have tried to drive this have no clue about a standard transmission. And when I tell them that they just got to do it one click at a time, they don't understand the concept. And some of them have started off in second or third gear. Some of them have kept it in first gear, had a hard time figuring out how to get it out of reverse. There's the reverse lockout right here. And that puts it into neutral, and then you're in first. But some people yanked on it too far back, so then the clutch just slips. So one of the things I'm considering doing is putting a torque converter in here, which would eliminate the transmission altogether. So we'll see how that's all going to work out. So I invite you to hang on for the ride. We're also going to make a modification to the exhaust system. Not exactly sure how or what we're going to do, but that depends on what we end up doing for the motor. If we keep this motor, then we'll work with what we have here. And I'd like to route it back down and down along lower like I had it originally. So, until next time, this is George, the Shade Tree Fix-It Man, saying thanks for watching, commenting, subscribing, thumbs up, sharing, all of them good things. And now it's time to get some work done. Bye for now.